Good morning. Good morning. I am here in Texas where it is only about 7:40 a.m. And so, because I have a little time before I go do the things I do to make money, at a moment to talk to you guys about Sylvia Plath. Now, I know I've been promising this video for some time, so I'm happy to deliver this morning. I'm going to go into a little bit of Sylvia Plath's life and how she impacted American literature. And then I might even read like one or two of her poems just to kind of give us an idea of who Sylvia was and just how impactful she was. Now, Sylvia was a very famous writer. She wrote The Bell Jar. A lot of people know her from The Bell Jar. And she was a very American writer, writing about women's issues around the 1950s, around the 1960s. Now, what Sylvia Plath was able to do really vocalize the plight of women in these very traditional roles. So in the 50s, in the 60s, our idea of womanhood is very domesticated, right? You're a homemaker, you cook, you clean, you take care of the kids, you're very kind, you might make a pie, you love your husband. You almost think of someone like Leave It to Beaver. What we saw from Sylvia Plath was a very different perspective on that type of domesticated life. And she really spoke to the suffering that could come from such a lifestyle. So her book, published in 1965, Ariel, came 2 years after her suicide in London. But in the poems, Robert Lowell says this: in these poems, Sylvia Plath becomes herself, becomes something imaginary, newly, wildly, and subtly created, one of those super real, hypnotic, great classical heroes. And she does this because she appropriates a very central American tradition, the heroic, ego confronting the sublime. But she brilliantly revises this tradition by turning what the American transcendentalist Ralph Waldo Emerson called the great and crescent self into a heroine instead of a hero. So in layman's terms, she was able to take that very striving American thought process of persisting, of building the life, of overcoming, and instead of it being the male lifestyle that is central to that story, she turns it into the woman. And how did the American woman fit into that American dream? And where does her suffering start and stop? And what are her values? So The Bell Jar, which was her book, has nothing of the brilliance of her poems, but it does dramatize the stereotypes of women's roles in the 50s and the turmoil of a young woman who only is partly aware that her gifts and ambitions greatly exceed the options available to her. Right? So, and this ultimately is a book that speaks to the writer's life, her suffering, her desire for more than a domesticated life, right? Almost like the Little Mermaid's desire for more than like an underwater world, right? I want to be a part of that world. I don't even know why. I'm sorry, I couldn't even sing it. But while her poems are often begin autobiography, their success often depends on the imaginative transformations of experience into like this myth. And in many ways, Plath embodied the bright, young, middle-class woman of the 50s. She went to college. She got married. She had 2 small children. She had a very, country home up in Denver. Well, all of the things, right? But in her poems, we find the strains of the life. She's suffering by a terrible constriction which she unlooses. And she articulates this dark vision of domestic life. And she really focuses on writing about these private and taboo subjects. Her poems are powerful and angry, and they have really deep feeling. A lot of them are fueled by her anger to her father and to her husband. And it's one of those things that make you say her feelings are more than just her own. Her feelings represent a whole demographic of women at that time, right? And so it's almost as if her work says, I am a woman's life. Her poems are offering eccentric vision from where the appearance of the natural world is never separated from the consciousness of the one who sees it. She once remarks that I cannot sympathize with those cries from the heart that are informed by nothing except a needle or a knife. I believe that one should be able to control and manipulate experiences, even the most terrifying, with an informed and intelligent mind. So that is pretty much Sylvia Plath's story. So before I do it again, I just want to share some, like one or two of her poems that kind of speak to this anger we're talking about. So the first one I have here is, I guess we could do Daddy, and then we can do Ariel. Daddy's kind of long. Let's start with Ariel. Stasis in darkness, then the substanceless blue. Poor tour in distances. God's lioness. How one we grow. Pivot of heels and knees, the furrow. Splits and passes, sister to the brown arc of the neck I cannot catch. Nigger eye. Berries cast dark. Hooks. Black sweet blood mouthfuls. Shadows. Something else. Hauls me through air. Thighs. Hair. Flakes from my heels. White. Godiva. I unpeel. Dead hands. Dead stringencies. And now I. Foam to wheat. A glitter of seas. The child's cry. Melts in the wall. And I am the arrow. The dew that flies. Suicidal. At one with the drive. Into the red. I. The cauldron of morning. That one's kind of interesting because I almost felt like I was underwater and having like that blurred, dark vision. Like you kind of see a little bit, but you can't see the whole picture. Okay, so now we have Daddy. You do not do any more black shoe, in which I have lived like a foot for 30 years, poor and white, barely daring to breathe or a chew. Daddy, I have had to kill you. You died before I had time. Marble heavy, a bag full of God, ghastly statue with one great toe, big as a Frisco seal, and a head in the freakish Atlantic, where it pours being green over blue. In the waters of beautiful Nasset, I used to pray to recover you. Ach, do. In the German tongue and the Polish town, scraped flat by the roller of wars, but the name of the town is common, my Polack friend. Says there are a dozen or two, so I never could tell where you put your foot, your root. I never could talk to you. My tongue stuck in my jaw. It stuck in barbed wire snare. Ick, 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 ick. It could hardly speak. I thought every German was you, and the language obscene. An engine, chuffing me off like a Jew to Dachu, Auschwitz, Belsen. I began to talk like a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. The snows of the Tyrol, the clear beer of Vienna, and not very pure or true, with my gypsy ancestress and my weird luck, and my Tarak pack and my Tarak pack. I may be a bit of a Jew. I have always been scared of you, with your Luftwaffe and gobbledygoo, and your neat mustache, and your otter-eyed bright blue. Panzerman, oh you, not God, but a swastika, so black, no sky could squeak through. Every woman adores a fascist, the boot in the face, the brute heart of a brute like you. You stand at the blackboard, Daddy, in the picture I have of you, a cleft in your chin instead of your foot, but no less a devil for that. No, not, unless the black man who bit my pretty red heart in two, I was 10 when they buried you. At 20, I tried to die and get back to you. I thought even the bones would do. But they pulled me out of the sack and stuck to me together with glue. And then I knew what to do. I made a model of you. A man in black with a mink calf look. And the love of the rack and the screw. And I said, I do. So Daddy, I'm finally through. The black telephone's off at the root. The voices just can't worm through. If I've killed one man, I've killed two. The vampire said he was you and drank my blood for a year. 7 years if you want to know. Daddy, you can lie back now. There's a stake in your fat black heart, and the villagers never liked you. They are dancing and stamping on you. They always knew it was you. Daddy, you bastard, I'm through. So, that was pretty evident of how she feels. And it kind of goes into not even just about her father, but just her view of men. And she calls him a vampire. And she talked about how he left her and how she looked for him in every person she met. And how to damn him, she became his opposite. And so many different tropes that really go into becoming an adult and the disillusionment of our parents, right? How they're not the heroes that we saw them as their children, but they almost become a villain for a while, and then they just kind of become human. And so we see that. So let me know what you guys think of Sylvia Plath, her impact on American literature. I think she really did a number for women's literature and really did a number for allowing women to take different paths, right? Allowing people to say, hey, like, domestic life doesn't fit everybody, and then giving people permission to look into other ways of fulfillment. And I think that's a beautiful thing to add to your community before you leave. So I hope you guys enjoy Sylvia Plath, get into some of her writings, and let me know who I should talk about next. I think I'm thinking about a Native American writer and maybe a Latino writer, maybe even an Asian writer, to kind of just like fully get into like women's writing for a little while. We did the black men thing, so let's talk about some of the female writers that helped shape American literature. And yeah, that'll be our new series. But stick with me. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe. So glad to have you guys. See you later. See you next time.